Greetings from the studio of GraceANN Cummings. Here's ordinary duct tape and my glass shards that will go into my paintings. We put them on the duct tape. And then proceed to cut those pieces nice and clean. Like so. Black tape to keep the glass from spreading and breaking. Hold it together for a long time on the canvas, probably hundreds of years. That's step one. And step two, we mark the middle of the canvas so that the composition will be aligned compositionally for a balanced perspective for the viewer. This is a square canvas, 12 by 12. And then we arrange the letters, which I've already taken the time to mostly do because choosing the mirrors takes quite a long time, about an hour, to get all the ratio of right size pieces that will go to this size canvas and also work well with each other. But then you lay them out according to the middle. This one, you'll see shortly, is going to spell a word. So we lay the pieces out. You can see we have the letter E forming here. And we want the middle line to be lined up with the middle of the canvas. And then we have the next letter, which takes quite a bit of time to lay out properly. So I'm just going to do a quick version here for the camera. But you can see it's going to spell the word we. And the next stage after this will be poking holes into the canvas to attach the mirrors with wire. So step three, we've got the word we laid out in mirrors. And it's laid out, the W takes a little more space than the E, and the W is such an expressive, outward reaching letter that I've allowed it to go much more towards the center of the canvas, so that when you look at it, it's more like a vortex going a balance of the entire word rather than just a single letter at a time. So the word we is laid out relative to the center point, as the viewer is going to be relative to the center point when they look at the painting. And then the measurements on either side, we can see here that we're roughly 3 inches away from the bottom point, roughly 3 inches away from the bottom point of the E. Same on the top. Roughly, we have here roughly 3 3/4 inch away from the top. The sides are uneven. There's very little space here and more than an inch over here. But again, that's because of the energy of the letters themselves, the graphic imagery of the W versus the linear we that's so geometric. Next stage is to puncture the canvas with holes around each letter so that we can insert the wire. So now we have all our holes punctured. So we remove the pieces, keep them in order so that it's easy to remember where to place them back on the canvas, because when you see all the holes, it's a little confusing on the eye. But knowing which pieces fit those holes helps put them back in place. So we set those mirror shards up the way they will be on the canvas, the order that they'll be on the canvas, and then we start the process with the wire. So now we've got our pieces securely secured on the canvas. You can shake it, they don't fall off. We can look at the back, see the wire is there. So the next stage is to glue all the holes that I created with archival glue. Just fills up the holes, keeps the wire from making the holes bigger, and secures it to endure through time. And we can see that. Put a little glue on here, and then I fill up the holes, pat it down so it doesn't make a big blob, and this stuff dries clear. And so we're continuing on this canvas with the glass, the mirrors of we, and we're now ready for paint. The mirrors are attached, and the holes are glued up in the back, and we're ready to apply paint. And I have chosen a, it's known as Ultramarine Blue Deep. It's a very transparent blue. And then I'm using with that Interference Lilac because it makes the paint have a reflective character, so it has more dimensions of light than normal, so that I can play with those paints on this canvas in the direction of the letters, because the title of this one is called Division Happens in Unity. So we have our paints here. When you squeeze the ultramarine blue, you can see it's a very blue color. And here's the Interference Lilac. But when you mix them, see this really cool combination, and it turns kind of a purple. See that purple show up? And I'm not going to mix this very much. It'll mix more as I put it on the canvas. This is just to get it started. But look at that. See all the light patterns that come from a monochrome? So we'll see how that comes out on our canvas. So we've painted the we with the monochrome, with the interference. And if you look carefully, let's see if I can get a sideways view. You see the texturing? It actually is coming up off the canvas. So it looks like the paint, when you're here in person, it looks like the paint is leaping off the canvas, as if the mirrors had splashed down into the paint. So now the trick is to continue the movement with the lettering, but gradually work into brush strokes that are single strokes that glide off the canvas. So I have to work my way out with kind of a splatter pattern, a dabbling rhythmic pattern that then will go off in a direction. So let's see how that works. We take a bit of our interference paint here, and let's see if I can show you. We dabble very lightly, even keeping some of the white. See how I'm letting the naked canvas stay? Gives it a nice texture. Until you see, there, I've got this left over. And I continue doing that. It gets thinner and thinner. And so by the edge of my canvas, I can make brush strokes that are just straight actions out, which then also show that very interesting light pattern, the lighting from the interference paint. We'll take a still life photo of this after it's all done. And so here's our final painting. You can see all the crazy brush marks of paint, and you have both an explosive energy coming from the canvas and directional energy. We have the explosion coming off as if the mirrors had crashed into it, and then our directional strokes, horizontal, explosive, going off the canvas in all the directions of the W and the directions of the E lines. So we have movement demonstrated as oppositional forces to go along with the theme of the title, Division Happens in Unity.